Hey Cathy, I am just doing this basically on off the cuff here. So I haven't done a ton of sort of research, but I did pull up a video. I'm going to compare it to some of the stuff that I am doing and to you. So um, hopefully you don't think that I'm using me just because I think I'm super awesome, because I definitely have problems. But I'm going to compare a specific area with you and me that we can sort of look at. So we're going to look at the video of you in slow motion because you've asked for a little feedback, so we'll give you some of that here. And specifically, I'm going to look at a couple places, your catch and your release. So we're going to start with the release. So if we look at the release for you, we're going to come through here, through the drive, and we'll slow this down to 0.5, and it's already slow motion, so this should be nice and slow. So if we look at our hand height here, through that drive, our drive, again, we want to draw it into our ribs, just below our sternum. So that's going to be around here for you. So if we draw a line straight out from there, we want our hands actually down to about here. So, and we can see how we've got water that's coming up this shaft to here. So we're a little bit deep on here, right? So as we draw through, we see that blade suck a little bit of water up there. It's not too bad. There's got to be some way to lower your rigging, because I think your rigging is actually a little bit high for you. But I've looked at your riggers, and I'm not entirely sure how we would go about doing that. But and here's why I think it's high, because when we come here, we're actually getting closer to the point where we should be. But the blade is coming out of the water. But this is much closer to the actual height that I think we should get. So I'm not sure if there's any set washer or something that's under there that we might be able to lower, or if there's some way, like if you have washers underneath your rigger here that are propping it up some. But if we could lower that, I think that would help you. So anyways, coming in here though, we come into here, you've extracted, and this here's pretty nice. You're coming out with a nice full blade here. This one's coming out a little bit after, but that's okay. I think that's because the boat is a little unbalanced, because if we look at the hands are actually fairly even, which means that this blade here should be a little further out if the boat was completely balanced. So we might be just a little bit off balance, but that's not a big deal. But what we're going to look at here is what happens. So now the blade came out nice, pretty much a full blade extraction, and we look at the hands here, but as we roll it, we see here how this hand doesn't continue to push down as we feather. In fact, it stays basically the same, and the top of the blade now lays down on the water. So if we go here, there we go. So watch, the blade comes out, and then watch how the top of this blade sort of lays down rather than the bottom lifts up. And plop. And we can see, because if we look at the top edge of the point blade here and the distance till we see the hull, right? So it's about two cursors height. But if we back it up to where the blade first extracted, it's just a little bit over 1. So we see how that blade has dropped down. And plop. And we saw that little smack there, and that's going to be slowing it down. And we see the smack here on the water as well. So that's just putting the blades on the water, and the brakes are on the boat. So we see that there. Now if we look at mine, and again, I'm not saying that I'm super spectacular, but if we watch here and watch my hand height as I draw it through, well, that's faster. I haven't put this on, so I can't slow it down. But if we draw it in, there we go. We see here how this blade now has the height here, and we can see how this hand is pushed right down to the thigh. So we've seen it come from drawing in at height, pushing down to the thigh. And if we just back this up a little bit, there we go. So we see how it came in here with that nice buried blade. As we progress it forward, it pushes down as that blade comes out and feathers, and the hand has lowered as that blade has feathered, so we've kept that height. Now as we move away, we've got high blades, lots of clearance, and excluding a little bit of off-balanceness, we've got lots of clearance on these blades. The hands are still very low near the thigh height, especially with that right one, which is going to be the lower of the two. Right, so we want to really think of, as we draw that in, here, I'll go back just a little bit further, drawing in, and extract the full blade, feather high, and then hands away. But to do that, we really need to get that hand down. Right? We really want to push that hand down. Whereas, like I say, when we look at yours, sorry, I probably feel like I'm belaboring the point, but we look at the hand height here, we never really see it drop down to that thigh, and in fact there it raised, right? Looking at it at very slow motion, we see here, we're going to slow this down even to 0.25. Now watch this. We'll go back here to, there we go. We see they come in, and there we go. We see that teeny little lift even as we start to push away. So now, is this running down along the thigh, or is it up higher? Right? It's up higher. We want to keep that down on the thigh. That's going to get those blades away nice and clean, give us lots of room to prep up early. Okay. So now the other thing that we're going to look at is coming into the catch. So at the catch, when we're here, hands are over the ankles, this is kind of where we want to be squaring up. Right, so we want to square up there, but we're waiting, and now we start squaring when we're basically over the rigger. And that doesn't give us a ton of time to get these blades ready. Because again, as we see, you don't quite get to full compression, but it's pretty good. You get pretty good compression. So there we go. That's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one. It's not quite 90, but you're like 88 degrees, so that's pretty solid. But if we look here, where are the hands versus the rigger? It's not too far forward. So if we start at the rigger, that doesn't give us much time to prep the blades. And if we don't have time to prep the blades and they're not ready to go, we see what happens here. Those blades are buried. This one's buried here. That one's not quite buried. But we can see how we've been driving as we've been entering the blades. Right? The arms are hanging really nice. We've got a good forward pivot. But we want to get those blades in when we are here. Right, when we've got that 88 to 90 degrees, we want to lock them in there, right? Lift those hands, and rolling up early is going to give you time to prep those blades, so as you're actually coming up, you can start lifting the hands right here. So then the time from here to here is actually spent going into the water. So then from here on is driving in the water rather than placing the blades in the water. So this one here is just buried, and we see here how much of the legs we've lost, right? And again, over one stroke, it's not that big a deal, but over, you know, the course of, let's say, the head race, when you're striving to get under that 30-minute barrier, when you figure on a 6K race, you're probably taking 600 or more, 700 strokes. That amount of distance is really going to add up over that time, right? Here, though, you've got a nice arm hang. We've still got the shoulders in front. Let's see how this looks. It's through the push. We can see, though, the blades were buried. We'll go back. Blades are buried. Both blades are buried basically now. Look where the hands are, and as we drive, watch if those hands come up or if they stay at that level. Up, 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 up. Until here. Look at that. That is like straight across. So we can see those blades are way past where they should have been just buried. Look at that difference in hand heights, right? If we go back and forth. So here. So we go. We look at buried and up, 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 up. And look at how much those blades continue to go up. They peak up here, and then it's almost a straight line down, back down to here. And here's where they're level, so here's where we should have been pulling across the entire time. So any of that up and down is wasted energy because we're using energy going up, and then we're using energy coming back down. What that's doing is that's creating vertical forces on the boat, which get it oscillating vertically up and down rather than driving that boat horizontally. So again, over one stroke, we can get away with it. Over 720 strokes, if we couple that vertical bounce with the loss of energy going like this rather than going like this, plus the distance we're missing at the catch, that's areas that we can get a lot of speed, And then here, we come out, and the blades lay down more than stay high and move away. So those are sort of a couple quick things, and then we'll just go back to regular slow motion. Here again, let's check when they've buried. We see here this blade's buried before this one again. We advance. That one's finally buried there. Check out the hand heights. Check out how the legs have gone. So here's where we should have been in. And not just in, but in and driving from here. So buried from this point and pushing on. And you can even see here how, hang on, let's check this out. Now, watch how fast, even in slow motion, how fast this pushes back that first bit. Boom, you see how that butt there fires out. Right, let's watch that again. We come up and watch that butt, boom, it fires out because there's no weight on it. There's no resistance, there's no power getting transferred to the end of the blade, right? So we want to see that locked in and now having a heavy load as we push that blade on. Heavy load, it should drive slowly like that second half of the drive. That was a nice extraction there. That one was good. Look at that. Boom, blades came out high. Watch this. We see the blade extract. And we see the hands come down a little bit more that time. But again, missed it on the legs. We draw in, blade lays down, we see the tapping there. Right, so those are some easy ways. Now let's go to this here and we'll try to see. This looks like it'll probably have a decent catch. So if we watch me coming up to the catch, the blades go in. And we can see how the blades are still moving back as they're reaching in there in that last little bit. They get buried. Oh, I missed it a bit there. So I was a little bit off. Okay, so this one's better. We saw my body go a little bit, but we can see how the shins are still pretty close to 90. They're about that 88 degrees. We see a little bit of backsplash here. The blade's locked. Push through. Right, so we really want to get that nice sorry for all the clicking. So if we go here, here we go. We see this blade just touching, like full compression. Thighs are chest is against thighs. I wish I could slow motion this here. There we go. So blades are in. We see the backsplash. We see that compression here. I'm bending my arm a little bit there, so I'm taking that catch with the arms just a little bit, but the shins are fully up. So now this blade is locked in, and as we push, it's going to be all on the legs, hopefully, through the hips, through this first part of the arm. And that's when you can see us really getting that push, right? So that's just sort of a quick comparison. Again, I'm not saying I'm awesome. I'm just sort of using that because it's very convenient right now. Where's your video? Where's your video? Here we go. Let's replay this. So that was with your video. So that's just sort of a quick synopsis. Also, I do think it would be good to see your back a little bit straighter if we could, because we do have this rounding, right? And we see that pretty consistently. So I think if you were able to, you've got a pretty nice position there at the release, but then when you come forward, you've got this bit of a rounding. And I think that's probably because you're not fully on top of those sit bones, that you're letting your hips round under just a little bit. That's my assumption. But you would know that better than me because you're the one that's going to be sitting on those sit bones or the rounded part of the backside. So, but I think by getting on the sit bones, I think that might straighten that out just a little bit more. All right, so I hope that this has been helpful. I will post this tonight and send you a link. And have a great night. See you. Now I'm going to stop.